Hey everybody, it's Brooke. I hope you're having a great day. And finally, the much talked about Grandma's kitchen drawer is done. I'm so excited. I love how it came out. And since I've been talking about it constantly, let's do a flip through. This was made from a pillow sham, a quilted pillow sham that I found at the Goodwill. And it's pretty faded and obviously well loved. There's hand stitching on it. The quilting is hand stitched, and so that is what the cover is. Additionally, I added some little bits of vintage lace, little trim bits. There's a satin rose, an old button, an old price tag, S&H green stamp. This is from a early 1900s journal, and it's the egg record, which I think is so cute. And here's Grandma herself. She's a beauty. And on the side there is some rosette trim that's nice and tattered looking, and just seems very much like something Grandma would have. And then the back is just the same pillow sham. So that is what the journal looks like. It's got some trim on it, and I've zigzagged it to stop the fraying. There are threads and things hanging off, but I left them because I think they look terrific that way. So the binding is seam binding that I hand dyed, and I love how it came out. It's all crinkly and different shades of peach and pink, and it's pinker than actually that it looks like on the camera, but that is that, and it just unties. And look what a fatty! Look what a fatty! Love it, love it. The cover is nice and soft and flexible. I really am enjoying that sort of feeling for this. So on the inside, I made the inside from vintage linens as well. And this is a bag of goodies that will come with the journal. This beautiful glassine bag is from Denise at Practice Makes Pretty, and the nice old man will put a link down below to her shop. She's got great stuff. And there's just some rickrack pieces and offcuts from the fabric that I used and some of the trim I used. Some coffee dyed paper and scrapbook paper, just little bits and bobs that you can play with in your journal. And that slips right in here. The inside is this really rough textured linen. It was part of a table runner, and I love how it looks. It's just beautiful. And inside it's a hanky that was embroidered with a flower, so that makes a nice pocket. The spine is covered with this really pretty green and coffee colored calico, and that covers the whole inside of the spine. So here we go. The first signature, it does have 3 signatures and 120 pages back and front, and there are plenty of places to write and memory keep and put in your photos, whatever you like to do with your journal. So let's let her rip. Coffee dyed scrapbook paper, which I just love. It's a lightweight paper. Coffee dyed children's writing paper with some stamping. Here's a pretty pink doily, just clipped in. This is a newspaper page from Easter Monday, 1889, and I think it's super cool. It's in really good shape for its age. A little delicate, but not bad. This is some shelf lining paper that I found, or drawer lining paper rather, that is rose scented, and so it actually even smells like Grandma would smell. And I would not say it's vintage, but it is older because it's sort of yellowed, and I just did some stenciling on that. Here's a piece of grocery bag, because you know that Grandma saved those grocery bags. Folded that up to make a pocket, and there's just a little quote in there. And coffee dyed computer paper, coffee dyed deli paper, because, you know, more plain paper that's coffee dyed. This one flips out. Oh, you can't see that. Let me see if I can move that over. It flips out this way for more space to write. And then there's this beautiful lace belly band along here. And tucked inside is a printable that I coffee dyed that's a shipper of fresh eggs receipt. I'm pretty certain that Grandma kept chickens because chickens are the best. Why wouldn't you keep chickens? This is coffee dyed graph paper and some more stenciling. This is a flip out, so you have a place to do some journaling along the edge. It's just stitched in, and it tucks right back into this pretty little Tim Holtz flower. Then on the back side, it's stitched up to be pockets. In the center of the signature, there's some scraps. This is a page from a vintage photo taking book, and I've got it stitched onto coffee stained parchment paper. That was Gayle Agostinelli's idea, and I think it's brilliant because it adds some weight and of course a really cool sound. And I will link her. Okay, that's a lie. The nice old man will link her down below as well, but I'm sure you know who she is. On this side of the pocket is a bag from Grandma's favorite tea, and there's a Project Life card that I coffee dyed and attached a little crocheted flower to. This adorable little charm is a creamer, because Grandma probably took cream in her tea, and it's attached to the lace with a bulb pin. The back side of that, and then here's some more of that graph paper that's coffee dyed, and I did some more stenciling. And that folds out on that side. Next is another piece of coffee dyed paper, other side of that deli paper. Here's some stamping that I did down here. The other side of the grocery bag, a little canvas tag stitched on that has a butterfly. And here's a guest check. And these are kind of the lightweight ones, so again, I backed it with that coffee stained parchment paper, and that tucks right in there. This is the back side of the shelf lining, or drawer lining paper rather. Again, I use that same stencil. Kind of reminds me of wallpaper that Grandma would have, and stitched on a little bit of vintage calico. Here's a page from the June 1926 Greg Reiter shorthand course, and I coffee dyed that. It did have a lot of aging of its own, but I gave it some help, and it's got all the advertisements over here. Here's some of that children's writing paper that's coffee dyed, and the scrapbook paper that I folded over and stitched to make a little tuck. And here is an old S&H green stamp page. I love this. I can remember sitting with my grandmother and doing these stamps. Way to date yourself there, Brooke. But this is an old one. I don't know how old it is, but I just love how it looks. So that's just tucked in there for you to play with. Do whatever you'd like. This is the back of the first signature and the beginning of the second signature. You can see that nice calico in the middle again. I left plenty of space in between so you can stuff this even fuller than it already is. Inside of this page is a pocket, and inside the pocket is a snapshot from 1949 of Florence's vegetables. Isn't that great? I found another box of cool snapshots, vintage ones at an antique store, so I've tucked them in here and there. And another Project Life card that I coffee dyed and stapled a little bit of fabric to. Another piece of grocery bag. Grandma never threw anything away. There's that shelf lining paper again. A little bit of the calico that's stitched on and some stenciling. Coffee dyed paper, that's a fold out. Here's some coffee dyed ledger paper. I left this the way that it tore. I just really liked how it looked. It was kind of vintagey and grungy looking, so I just left that. And here's a paper clip with some beautiful chiffon ribbon on the top and a little bird card. I'm sure that Grandma was a bird watcher. This is another piece of the parchment paper that I use for coffee dyeing, and I folded it up and stitched it here so that these are two separate pockets. Put in a recipe card there, and this is a little article from an old magazine about how to wash your carpets. Seemed like that would be something that Grandma would hold on to in case there was a spill. There's the back of that page. Here's some vintage ledger paper, excuse me, And I stitched on this button twill that I adore. This is from Hobby Lobby, and I just can't get enough of it. The back side of that ledger paper, it's actually dated 1882, and there's some notes about what people were, and this one's 1886. Actually, maybe that's a 1885 and 1886. Some notes about what people were buying. Children's writing paper. This is a magazine page from Demorist's Family Magazine, May of 1890. This is an original magazine page, and look at all the fashions. Isn't that amazing? The paper is in great condition. I was so excited to find this magazine. So I put that in, and there's the back side. Look at those dresses. Look at her little tiny waist. Oh, it's amazing. More coffee-dyed scrapbook paper. And this is an envelope that I found, again, sort of abandoned at the bottom of a box in an antique store. And it talks about lavender for ladies, and they grow it in the garden. They have these two beautiful vintage ladies. Can you see that? I did a little repair on the back because it was torn, but there's lavender inside. Dried lavender that still has a very vague scent, but along with the rose drawer lining paper, it really sounds and smells like Grandma. Oh, and there's some dried lavender right there. Looks like we sprung a leak. I'll fix that. Back side of that scrapbook paper that's coffee dyed. The same magazine. More fashions from there. Children's lined writing paper that I coffee dyed. Little stamping along this edge. That folds out a little bit. Other side of that beautiful ledger paper, and that folds out as well. The color on that is just breathtaking, I think. It aged beautifully. There's that parchment paper again that I used for coffee dyeing, and there's a little clothes hanger. Wow, I totally lost my words. Let's try again. A little clothes hanger paper clip. Yay, she does it. Wow. With a little crystal charm on it. And Grandma was a fanatical bridge player, so I tucked in a little playing card with owls. That's an old vintage card. And there's a scorecard for playing bridge. I'm not sure how old they are, but I'm guessing from the color of the paper that they are pretty old. And those just slip right in that little pocket, and the clip holds them. There's the back side of that. And on this page, there's a paper clip that says life on it. There's a little charm. I'm sorry, live. And the paper clip is holding a recipe from an old magazine for planked eggs, and I don't even know what that is. I don't think I want to know. Yeah, no, don't need to know. And here's an ad for the best tooth powder. And this is liquid veneer and an ad for a piano. I can't remember which magazine this came from. It is original, and I'm guessing from the clothes on these folks that it was either late 1800s or early 1900s. But both of those are original. They're not copies. And there's the back side of the ledger paper. More plain copy paper that's just dyed. This is scrapbook paper. Oh no, it's the shelf lining paper. And I put a little triangle tuck in here, so there's room for journaling. And inside the pocket is this little bit. I want to say it's a paper doll, but it's not. I don't know if you can tell. It's very glossy, and it's embossed. So you can see on the back that it's been embossed. Something in my head is saying that they're called German scrap, but I would not swear to that. I did find it in a little container of vintage paper dolls. I found a couple pieces, and I just think it's so beautiful. And there's the back of that shelf liner. Some more grocery bag with some stamping. Here's the back side of that scrapbook paper that I coffee dyed and folded up. Here is a little information that Grandma would have held on to that is actually part of a vintage advertising card. And you tore off this part to send in for information on health insurance. And here's a receipt from August 17th, 1935 for somebody's quarterly interest of $1.73. They coughed up and paid it. and it was Albion G. Weeks. Maybe that was Grandpa. Cool. At any rate, this is another piece of vintage ephemera. It's not copied. And here's the back of that page. There's a little bulb pin again with a beautiful cameo charm attached. That's the end of the second signature. And here we are to the third signature. More coffee dyed scrapbook paper that I did some decorative stitching on. There's a pocket folded up and some beautiful cotton trim. In the pocket I have a little frame for souvenir views. This is faux ephemera, but there is a vintage photo of a couple folks. Don't know if it was Grandma and Grandpa on vacation or their friends. The back says Dover Point, August of 1947, so that would be New Hampshire. And then here's a page from a vintage travel book, and you can keep your itinerary on there. And distance between important cities. I'm not sure who gets to decide what important cities are, but there you go, get the distance. More coffee dyed plain copy paper, fold out. And here's the back of a grocery bag and a vintage recipe book page. Grandma might have been feeling a little salty and decided to go for the foreign dishes. And I love how this aged, and there's actually a stain on there. Someone loved this cookbook at some point. And that's just clipped in there with a paper clip that has some of that pretty vintage calico on it and some beautiful pink rickrack. There's the back of the grocery page. More plain paper, coffee dyed. Here's a prescription bag that I coffee dyed because you know that Grandma and Grandpa must have had a lot of prescriptions and they would have held on to those bags. Inside here is a photo of a little girl that was perhaps one of Grandma's grandkids, Elizabeth G. Eldon, age 7 years. She's so pretty. Look at that. And it's all aged. And it was, again, it taped in somewhere into someone's book at some point. But here is a spelling page, a spelling test. And I'm pretending that it was Elizabeth's. And Grandma held on to it because look how smart Elizabeth was. 100, A+, 100. So Grandma would have held on to that because she would have been as pleased as punch with Elizabeth. There's the back of the bag. There's more children's writing paper that I coffee dyed and did some stenciling on. Here is some graph paper, a bit of vintage sewing paper, and I stitched on this gorgeous eyelash trim. On the other side, I've just clipped in this pink envelope. There's nothing inside, but it's the graph paper that folds out, and I stitched in some cheesecloth just for fun, no reason, because I can. And that goes right back on there. This is parchment paper that I coffee dyed and stamped. This is actually scrapbook paper that is meant to look like ledger paper, and I coffee dyed that and stitched on this gorgeous vintage pink lace into a pocket. This is a playing card from the late 1800s, and I love that. It's a Scrabble number game. I'm not sure how a person played it, but I just think the cards are so pretty. And a stamp that Grandma would have kept because it's upside down. No, there we go. It's a German postage stamp, and maybe Grandma thought it was beautiful, so she just tucked it in this drawer to keep it. Here's more scrapbook paper. That one is stitched to an Edith Holden book page. It's the center of the signature. And I made a little envelope here. Tucked inside the envelope are a page from an old Alice and Jerry book. Look at that. And it's got chickens on it because, you know, Grandma was all about those chickens. And this is from a 1930s notebook. I just folded that up and look at the beautiful aging around the edges. I don't know, it's kind of glary, but it's really pretty, and the lines have faded to pink, so it kind of fit in with the whole pink thing going on. On the opposite side of this, I stitched some old rickrack across to make two pockets, and I just tucked in coffee-dyed lined paper so that there were more places to journal. And on the top pocket, obviously, there's a piece of ledger paper tucked in that top pocket. More places to write or put treasures or whatever you like. The back side of that is the pretty pink scrapbook paper again. This is a short page with the, it's the scrapbook paper that looks like ledger. It's got that other side of that beautiful lace. And this is I think actually Tim Holtz ephemera that is about nests and eggs. And I just attached a piece of coffee dyed paper on the back to get rid of that stark white color. Here is another piece of parchment paper, or this is actually deli paper, coffee dyed and stamped, and I stuck on a little piece of leftover trim that looked grandma-like. This is graph paper that I coffee dyed. I ruched this calico fabric on there, and this is a bulb pin with a charm that says Inspire. And there's the back of that. The children's writing paper folds out and has some stamping on it. There's the back of that. Here's another one of those little triangle tucks that folds up and you can write, and it's got a tuck on the top side, the Project Life card, and a little bit of trim that I had left over that I stapled on there. And here's, oops, we got stuck. Did we get stuck? Oh, no, it's attached. Yeah, great. So this is attached to the pharmacy bag. There's the other side of the pharmacy bag. And I just put in a printable that I found online. I think it might have been Tsunami Rose, but again, it had the chicken theme going on, and I printed lines on the back. I have a problem with chickens. I'm obsessed. I love them. So that just goes back in there. Here is a piece of the calico that I used for the binding, and a piece of embroidery that I did. Coffee dyed muslin here, some beautiful crocheted trim, and this is a flip a la Nazi at Amity Bloom, so you can do some secret journaling underneath if you'd like to. There's the back side of that page, the other side of the grocery bag. One more plain paper that folds out for writing and list making or photos, whatever your fancy. There's the back side of that. And this is the last page of the journal itself. It's that scrapbook paper that's folded up with trim. And inside, I tucked this piece of recipe. It is super old. I think it's from the late 1800s. It's really fragile. I don't know if you can see that, but the handwriting is so gorgeous. And the pieces are sort of glued together in a little patchwork. And this is a recipe for nice molasses cookies and white cake in such gorgeous handwriting. And on the other side is just cake. So I guess if I were going to do it, I would make the nice cake. I don't know what the difference is, but I just thought that was beautiful, and I didn't want to risk trying to attach it anywhere. So that's just tucked in there for fun. And on the back page is a list pad that Grandma probably would have had in her drawer if she needed to jot something down. And I just stitched a couple pages together at the top, and they can rip right out. In the back of the journal, I have this fabric envelope, sort of all patchwork and stitched together, and it's attached with this little bulldog clip. And this is what the back of the journal itself looks like. It's the rest of that table runner, and I used some of the trim to make a pocket, and just tucked in this little printable envelope. And there's even a little oh, no, I thought there was something in it, but there's not. So it's just the little envelope. And that's tucked right in there. And this is the fabric pocket that I put inside, and it can go anywhere you'd like. Let's see if I can get that in frame. There we go. And I just made it from scraps of all the linens that I used in the book. Some old velvet stitched on here. This is part of a hanky with this really cool embroidery business going on. In this pocket, I have another vintage picture. This one actually is the original of my grandmother's best friend. We have a billion pictures like this, and I thought it might be nice if she went to a new home. She was so beautiful. That was during college. This is just printed ephemera. I included a little piece of coffee dyed paper that was more journaling space. Just folds up. And that would be graph paper, obviously. This other pocket has a page from a vintage Workbasket magazine, and it's new fashions to crochet, because I would think that in addition to being a seamstress, Grandma was an avid crocheter. And I did the parchment paper coffee dye business on the back again, so you can write on that if you'd like. And those are the front pockets. Then if you flip it over, it's nice and flappy and yummy and squishy. Here's a little tag that says memories on another scrap of lace. And I folded up a doily here and stitched it on with a vintage button. This is a page from an old songbook, and I just made it into a tag with a page from a children's book. And underneath is a slide, and I've got that clipped on, tucked in the other pocket. And this is actually an old slide from one of my grandparents' trips to Europe. And I think that's a picture of London, but it's really hard to just hold the slide up and tell. So that's my best guess. And that pops right back in there. And the last thing included in Grandma's kitchen drawer is a pencil board. I made this with pages from a 1950s Saturday Evening Post and a piece of cardstock. So this is the beginning of a story. And on the other side are some ads for different fashions of the 50s. And I laminated the whole thing, which is why you're getting that glare. But it's nice to have a pencil board the right size because it can just live in the back of the journal. And then when you want to write on something that has some texture, you put your pencil board in, like those buttons, put your pencil board in, and you have a nice flat surface where you can write, and those buttons won't interfere at all. So that is also included. And that is the end of Grandma's kitchen drawer. I love how it came out. I just think this was the best. It's going to be hard to put it into the Etsy shop, but it will be going there probably later today. Today is Tuesday, so probably later today or tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for watching and spending your time. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, go check out where you can stalk us on social media. The nice old man will put the links down below, right there. Thanks. Have a great night. Bye. I totally forgot when I was showing you the fabric envelope that goes with Grandma's kitchen drawer. I forgot there was a pocket on the side. Inside the pocket are some fashion clippings that from a 1950s magazine that maybe Grandma was holding on to sew, to copy. And there is an airmail envelope. There's no letter in it, but the envelope is just beautiful. And I can't read the date on it. I don't know if you guys can make that out. Can you see that? It looks like 30 something, but wait, focus. I'm not sure. But at any rate, it's really a cool envelope, and I love the postage. And then finally there is a vintage birthday card that perhaps Grandpa gave to Grandma, and she likes to look at it. And it's just adorable, and it is written in. So those are the things that are tucked in this little side pocket, and that really is the end. Thanks so much. Bye.